Good evening. This is the video newsletter for Buy Sell Short for Thursday, October 28th. Pretty much more of the same on the market today. We had futures up pretty nicely going into the open thanks to another drop in jobless claims, but that initial spike got sold into pretty quickly, and before you knew it, we found ourselves yet again down 60 plus points, and some traders running for the hills as the robots are going out there triggering stops. However, as has been the case for over the last month, essentially, these fast dips that we've been seeing on the market, after the initial sell-off, by mid-morning we start to see the SMH recover, and then going into the last hour, we're almost flat again, and that has been the theme, especially over the last week. U.S. dollar was down sharply today, down 1% at one point, pretty much opposite of what happened yesterday, and that really helps stocks, especially going in late into the session. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and what we've been seeing a lot of over the last couple of days, and most traders really aren't familiar with it, many mutual funds, many hedge funds, their year end is tomorrow, not December 31st. Many funds have October 31st as their year end. The last essential trading day in October is tomorrow. And so that's the reason we've been seeing, especially on some crappy stocks or low value stocks, a lot of big volume. You've got funds sort of painting their portfolios right now. And actually, for a lot of them, with the 3 day settlement rule, today essentially was the last day they could really dump those stocks so they wouldn't show up in their portfolios and, when it comes to their bonus checks. So we could see some nice little pops on some stocks that have been really beaten over the head, some small cap stocks over the last few days on the end of this quarter. And also remember, next week is a huge week. We have so much stuff coming next week. We've got the Fed meeting on Wednesday. We've got the election on Tuesday. We've got the Fed's quantitative easing 2, QE2, and how much they're actually going to start buying each month. So we've got a lot of stuff coming up. And then we've got a pretty bullish market right now. We had the SMH yesterday finally break out of its trading range. Actually, let's look at the SMH first today. SMH finally broke out of that 6-month trading range yesterday. And, let's pull up a larger chart. So here we are looking at the 1-year chart. You can see we broke that $29 level. Next resistance area is 30 to 30.36. And just judging by how the SMH is acting, we could very well see that next week. Back to the daily chart, you can see right now, support essentially is 11K on this market. So as long as we hold up above 11K, everything should be fine and dandy, at least for the near term. As for the daily chart, you can see here on the daily chart, we've been riding that 20-day exponential slowly higher. We've eased off over the last couple of days, and we've seen stochastics come down. But this is about the level where stochastics saw a nice little pop about a week or so ago. So we could see similar action again. As long as we hold above 11K, we're pretty good. Last couple of days, small mid caps have been so-so. And as I mentioned, probably a large reason for that is, hedge funds trying to paint their portfolios ahead of their year ends. And we should see a lot of that pressure disappear tomorrow. We saw some of that in one of our plays today, PKT. Very big volume spike on this one today, especially going into the last hour. We saw about a 900 shares trade in the last hour, most of it on large block trades. Very close to a breakout on PKT. And one important thing to note on this stock, we're finally getting volume, and this is taking the seller out that has been holding the stock in place for the last couple of months. Last time we had any sort of volume like this was back in July and early August, and when the volume came into this stock, PKT ended up going from 44 cents to 65 cents over the course of 2 weeks. So perhaps it's time for PKT. One of its peers, RITT, low flow play, monster move on that one today. So we could be seeing the beginnings of a breakout here. 58 to 60 cents is where the real volume will come into this stock, in my opinion. So we're going to be watching this one very closely in the near term to add to our positions on this one. HILL, what a gem of a play this has turned out for us. We're almost pushing a 90% gain on this one over the last 2 months, and it looks like this one is ready to start a new breakout wave. Broke $2 today, and as you know, the rule of $2, stocks when they break a $2 level, 90% of the time we see them move to the 215 to 220 area. Now, looking at a 2-year chart on HILL, you can see 215 and 220 are some resistance levels it hit before. So the chart looks really, really good for a test of those levels. And if we get above 220, we're looking at a move to the 283 area. HILL is acting a lot like TRID EGHT did for us when they broke $2. And look at the huge moves those two put in after their break of two. As I mentioned on the alert, we added to our position on that break of two. Stops 190 to 195 depending on our tolerance. Remember, we also had a golden cross on HILL. Its peers are on fire. QTM up really, really big over the last couple of days, and I think HILL is really undervalued compared to what these other storage stocks are doing, and it looks like the market may finally be waking up to that fact. NEI. This is a stock that has required the patience of Job. However, over the last couple of days, we've been seeing some signs of life, and we got a nice little pop on this one today. Stock and the chart looks like it did back in early October. Stochastics were down low just like they are now. And as you can see, let me scroll up here. We saw the stock go from about 141 to 168. We hit that 141 again a couple of days ago, and looks like we're starting that new wave higher. This is a stock you can stick in your long-term accounts, in my opinion. As I've said many times, this is a play I think, given some patience, will retrace the tank that it had this summer and move all the way back up. This is also a play on EMC. That EMC is a big customer of network engines, and there's a lot of chatter about EMC looking to buy security storage plays, and that is exactly what this stock does. RSI broke up through 50 today, and we're looking really, really good in the near term here. HLCS bio alert play from a couple of days ago sort of eased off since that breakout, although today it was acting like it did on this last run. When we jumped into the stock originally a couple months ago in August, we got a big spike, consolidated for a couple of days, and went on a really big spike, and we're fingers crossed looking for similar action here again. We got that big spike. We've been consolidating here for a couple of days. This one, if it's going to go and follow that trend, could go tomorrow or Monday, and a target will be moved to the 200-day moving average up there at 65 cents. AEHR. This was our low flow play. Looked really good actually early on today, but then we got a seller coming into the stock. And again, this may be more of, funds easing out of a play at their year end. And again, these low float plays, they require a lot of patience. You have to play them small, and they can do what this stock is do. They can break out, volume disappear, annoy the crap out of you, you sell, and then some innocuous, silly press release comes out, and you see the stock up here. So that's why when you play them, you play them small, you play a few of them, and you hope for one of them to go kaboom. Probably one of the problems AEHR has is it's not a garbage stock. It actually has some merit to it and some quality, and usually the crappiest ones are the ones that go on the big runs. If you're still sitting on this one, downside is really, really minimal on this one. 120, 115 to 120. But, if you're in a small position, it may be worthwhile sitting on this one and waiting for the right press release to hit. SHZ. This is a stock we've been chatting about for the last couple of days in the chat room, waiting for it to break down, and it finally did that today. Broke the $3 level. Our target on the short was 275, 250, 231. Hit almost first two targets. It broke through 275, got into the 250s, and probably on a gap down if the rare material stocks continue their sell-off tomorrow. Over the next couple of days, you'll be looking at this one moving down to the 20-day exponential. Now, this is a setup I've been talking a lot of in the chat room. I don't short a whole lot of stocks, but when I do short, I want to be short in stocks where I've got a very high probability of banking. And this setup here is one that time and time again has proved itself a moneymaker. What you look for is a big spike up on the stock. 2 to 3 days is what it averages. Then you see a sell off over a couple of days, but the sell off is usually pretty minimal. And then you start to see the stock bounce higher. It does not break the previous high. If it breaks the previous high, then it negates this setup. And then what you usually look for is a breakdown around one of those candles, the low end of the candles. Usually they're on breakaway gaps like this. And in this case, it was $3. Now, one to keep an eye on that actually probably is going to end up being a paper short watch just based on the news and after hours. PIP. This one, huge run last week. You can see the huge run. Sell off over a couple of days. Bounce back. Did not break that previous high of 496 and then started easing down today. Now, if you were an aggressive short, you would have been shorting this one today. After hours, they had news that they're filing a shelf to sell some shares. No real surprise. As I've been saying on this huge run, these guys have Zippo cash and financing was inevitable. News came out on this one. The breakdown, the safe short spot on this one is 372 break, and you'll be looking for a move to the 20-day exponential at 312 and then the 225, 250 area. Funny enough, in after hours, when this one broke through 372, it tanked all the way down to 320. So, again, don't short a whole lot. This is the kind of setup I love shorting, and we've been seeing these kind of ridiculous spike run-up short plays over and over again. Learn them. It's proving to be a very profitable setup. So that's it for the video tonight. Going into tomorrow, really love the setups we have on HILL and NEI, and then we're going to be keeping a really close eye on PKT to see if this one finally breaks out. But HILL, I think we're going to be pretty happy with this one over the next couple of days. That's it for the video tonight. See you guys in the chat room tomorrow. Good night.